Just to be super real with you, within the last couple of years, I got depressed and I lost motivation. Not just for my goals, but my health was the worst it ever been in my whole life. I was getting overweight and I slowly went from 190 pounds to 225 at my peak. And if you followed me for a while, you could see this phase where my face started to get inflamed and I was noticeably bigger. I didn't feel good. I lost my enthusiasm, clarity, ambitions. I became short-tempered with everybody. I didn't have patience. I was argumentative. And worst of all, I was not the dad or husband that I wanted to be because I didn't have the energy to be that dad. And I was some other guy, like an alien. And Henry David Thoreau has a quote that most people live lives of quiet desperation. That was me. I was suffering in silence. I didn't want to make this big sob story, but I just wasn't well. And I'm this guy on YouTube with a certain uplifting brand, and I didn't feel comfortable sharing any of this, and I didn't want you to know. But right now, so many people are like I was. They are living lives of quiet desperation. They don't have energy, they're depressed, or they're just room temperature. And if you aren't hopeless, which many people are, then you just don't have tons of optimism for your life. You're somewhere in the middle. Maybe you put on some extra weight. You don't like who you see in the mirror. You aren't the friend that you want to be. You aren't the spouse or the lover you want to be. You aren't the parent that you want to be. You aren't where you want to be financially, and you feel stuck. You're so used to being stuck, you just deal with it. And you put a smile on. When someone asks, like, how are you doing? You say, I'm all right, I'm okay. It's going, nothing to complain about, it's moving. But deep down you feel stuck, empty, like something's missing, like you're missing. You're gone and you're in an alien's life. And you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, and you feel alone. So you don't say anything because you don't want to be a burden. And you don't want to complain. If that resonates with you, this is a guide for you because I went from there to losing 37 pounds. I went from 222 pounds down to 185. Then I kept my body fat down. I put on 20 pounds of muscle to 205 pounds. I started getting excited to wake up again. I got inspiration from my life again. I got the best relationship with my kids I ever had. My relationship with my wife got so much better. It's crazy. And trust me, I am still a work in progress. I'm still an asshole sometimes. I still have low energy days. I sometimes lose my patience. I sometimes have a temper. But I want to share a step-by-step ultimate guide to reinventing yourself in 2025 to achieve the health you want, to get out of depression, to attract the money you want, to change your business, the relationships you want, and get the excitement and inspiration you want. So this is my story. I'm going to break it down step by step so you can go through the same process to radically change your life. Again, I didn't want to make this video. I thought about it for a really long time, like about a year. And something just called me to make this. So if this speaks to you, please watch this whole video, share it with a friend, watch it again. Give me a comment down below and let me know if you enjoy it, and let's dive right into it. Let's start at step number 1, which is to recognize the problem, and comfort is the killer. Getting too comfortable is sneaky. When I was 28, I had everything that I ever wanted in life and more. I hit all my financial goals. I bought my wife her dream house in cash. I had a few $1 million in the bank. Life should have been a dream, right? But I got comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of growth. I stopped setting goals. I stopped learning. I stopped pushing myself. I coasted. And at first, I didn't even notice the damage because I was a new busy dad, a husband, a human Netflix sponge. And I never watched TV before, but I got lost. I was so lost, I started binge watching shows. Like I would just sit there and I'd watch like 5 hours of a series like in a week. And day after day, I felt more off and I felt stuck and numb and not alive and not inspired. Whether you're broke or you're financially stable, whatever you're going through in your life, you just start to slide. And then you kind of get used to not feeling as good. Then you get used to feeling miserable if you go lower. You get used to binge eating or binge Netflixing. And that's when it's time to wake up. Because if you get too comfortable, you're done. And you may not be going through the same thing. You may be like, yeah, it's easy for you to say you had a couple $1,000,000 and blah, blah, blah. Nothing in the exterior world can ever make you happy. I can tell you that as someone that far surpassed my own goals. What happens is the same theme. I had a couple $1,000,000 in the bank. My house is paid off. My cars are paid off. I hit all my goals, surpassed them by a long shot. And all of a sudden you start coasting. Or on the flip side, you haven't gotten close to any of your goals. Maybe it's just love goals or health goals, or maybe it's money goals, career goals, but you haven't gotten there. And it's been so long that you just become resigned that it won't happen. Regardless of the circumstance, it's the same end result. You just try to get comfortable. And that's really the killer. Now, this brings us to point number 2, which is a wake-up call. And if you get lucky, it's not something that's an emergency. And, for me, I got lucky, and it was an emergency. Sometimes it's big and embarrassing. For me, it happened about 2 years ago on a sunny beach in San Diego. We were on summer vacation, so picture this. I'm strolling down the sand, I got my shirt off, my earbuds in. I'm feeling semi-decent about myself when this overweight guy walks by and he yells something. And I can't hear him, so I pull my earbuds out, and he says, "Dad bods unite!" And he's like beaming with a smile. He's so stoked someone else is in the dad bod club. And I'm like, wait, I look like that? Like my brain short circuit. I'm like, the nerve, the audacity, the accuracy. And it was like a slap in my face, and it sparked something inside. And it was this wake-up call I didn't know that I needed. And life really has a way of sneaking up on you. Like one day, for me, I knew I wasn't doing that great. But I needed that, right? And life sneaks up on you. One day things are fine. A year later, your jeans don't fit, or now you're $50,000 in debt. It just keeps building. And what I decided to do was step on the mirror, and I found out I was 222 pounds. And for context, I used to weigh 185. But it wasn't the weight as much. My business is plateaued. My marriage felt distant. I wasn't excited about anything anymore. Like, I was just existing. And it really just started to hit me. And it was what I needed. So, what's your wake-up call? Maybe it's this video right now. Maybe it's a comment someone made. Maybe it's a feeling you keep having. Maybe you're waking up every day, you're feeling like life is passing you by. Maybe it's that you haven't been able to go out to dinner with your friends. You tell them you're busy, but in reality, you're still so far in debt, you haven't made any progress and you can't even afford $20 to go out. Hopefully, your wake-up call is in an emergency, like a lot of people. Thankfully, for me, it wasn't that, thank God. But what I invite you to do is make this video your wake-up call. Your wake-up call, maybe it's with your health. Maybe it's with your money. Maybe it's with your family, your relationships. Let this be your wake-up call. Let this be that moment, because the reality is there's so much more life. But what happens is we get so used to where we are that unless we get that wake-up call, we don't snap out of it. Now, that brings us to step number 3, which is to get honest. Denial is comforting. Like, it's easy to say I'm fine rather than admit, like, I'm a mess right now. And it starts with being honest. So I had to sit down with myself and ask myself some tough questions, like, how's my health? Awful. I gained a lot of weight. How was my business? It was stagnant and going backwards. How was my marriage? It was not the way that it had ever been in our relationship. How was my happiness? It wasn't existent. How was I showing up for my kids? Haphazardly. So I could just go down the list, and if I was honest with myself, things weren't where I wanted them to be. So What I invite you to do is to ask yourself some of these hard questions. You could write them down. I highly encourage you to do that. And the key is to really know where change needs to happen. So ask yourself, what's going on? Like, what is it that I've resigned myself to? Because that's the key word. When it is going on for so long, we resign ourselves to it. Well, this is just the way my body is. This is just how much money I'll ever make. This is reality is I'll be in debt forever. What's that thing for you, or a couple of those things for you? Once you're honest with yourself about those, instead of just schlepping them over, that's when the door opens. Next is to set goals that excite you. When I was younger, goals were like my lifeblood. And somewhere along the way, I guess when I started achieving all of them, I stopped setting them and I felt aimless. So what I invite you to do is what I did. I started small. My goal wasn't to lose 30-something pounds. It was just to exercise for 60 minutes a day. I didn't care how fast I pedaled. I cared that I showed up. And over time, I started to build momentum and I started to feel alive again. So you want to focus on small wins. Progress doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be consistent. So if you're out of shape, just focus on X number of minutes. If you're really behind financially, just focus on really small incremental growth, like saving $5. Did you save $5 today? Can you do it again tomorrow? That's going to add up. That's $180 in a month, right? These little tiny wins are super important. Tony Robbins says that what makes you happy is progress. And if you think about it, it's true, because for me, I can speak for myself. When I started going to the gym again, my thing was exercise bike at first, because I could turn on a personal development book or a podcast and I could just zone out and have a great time. Now, after 10 days of that, a month of that, 2 months of that, doing that every day or almost every day, even before I saw any measurable shift in my life, that progress made me confident. That progress made me feel proud of myself. That progress gave me a purpose in life. So it's really important to remember, because building is a bitch. Excuse the language, but building is a bitch. And if you are at rock bottom with your health, you are at rock bottom with your finances, you are at rock bottom in your relationships, it's a pain in the ass to get going and get that dopamine and all that stuff. But if you just focus on progress, you realize too, getting the thing, like me changing my health, changing my business, changing my relationships, that didn't make me happy. The progress in intentionally pursuing it and becoming a different person, that's what changed everything for me. And that's what I really invite you to consider. Now, the next thing you want to do is look at your life and then weed out everything that isn't working. You might be a parent. I'm a parent. I've got my third daughter on the way right now. And I was never a morning person. I was kind of a night person. So I would just sleep till I woke up. Now, once I started having kids, that did not work very well. It was always the most stressful days of I woke up when the kids woke up. If they got out of bed, and what's the first thing they do, if you have kids, they come wake everyone up. That didn't work very well. And so the first thing I did is I looked at how am I waking up? So that's where you want to start. Go through your whole day, starting at how are you waking up? So I made a really radical change, and I started waking up before 5 a.m. every single day. Some days I'd wake up at 4 a.m. Some days I'd wake up at 5 o'clock to an alarm. Some days I'd wake up at 3:56 on my own. And I'd say, well, I'm not going to go back to bed for 60 minutes. At first it was difficult. Now it's been about 2 years and I don't set an alarm. My body just wakes me up somewhere between 4 and 5 o'clock every day. That changed my life. Like, I couldn't believe. I didn't notice it the first 30 days, the first 60 days, So if you make a radical change, such as changing when you wake up, of course, that means you need to go to bed earlier. You need to get off the phone, put the phone on do not disturb in airplane mode. But when you make a big change, whether it's a change in what time you wake up or what you're eating or exercising, or that you're going to start saving money instead of staying in revolving credit card debt, you need to find a why behind it. And that's what I invite you to consider. My biggest why was for my kids, because I couldn't be the dad that I know I can be. If I'm stressed, if I'm overweight, if I'm low energy, and if I don't feel proud of myself. Ultimately, because kids pick up on energy, first of all. That's what you give them more than anything. Second of all, as they get older, they pick up on habits. And I wanted to give them the best energy I could, and I wanted them to observe the healthiest habits that they could. So my primary why was for my kids. I wanted to have more energy. And same thing once I started to shed weight and I started to lift weights heavy and put on muscle, I wanted to get as strong as I could. So one of my kids' favorite things to do is I chuck them so high in the air and they love it. And I couldn't have done that a couple years ago. So you want to find a why. It could be many things. It could be for yourself. It could be for your spouse. It could be for your kids. It could be for your future. It could be for your family. It could be so many things. But it's really important for you to pick a why. Like, what are you going through? Are you depressed right now? Have you been depressed for a while? Maybe your whole life you've had a subtle state of depression. Or maybe you're going through really bad financial time, and maybe it's not a season, it's been lasting for many years. You need to find your why behind it. What I can tell you is that once you do that, the rest of the things fall into place. Then it was easy to wake up. Then, to start losing weight, I only drank water. I didn't drink anything else other than water and some coffee. Then it became easy for me to change my diet. Then it became easy for me to make these shifts because there was a real why behind it. And once you find that why, I believe one of the primary reasons that we fall into circumstantial depression and circumstantial financial problems that grow and then they become normal is because we lost a sense of why and we lost a sense of purpose. And when we lose a sense of why and we lose a sense of purpose, we start to meander through life. Meandering through life is the same thing as that Henry David Thoreau quote, is that most people live lives of quiet desperation. Once you figure that out, you need to set goals. Because not so you can get them, but because the only way to get out of a rut is to have something to look forward to. Like, for example, if you have an awesome vacation booked, it's all expenses paid, it's already paid, maybe you won it in a raffle, the flight's paid, everything, it's in 14 days. Generally, you're in a way better mood those 14 days than the previous ones, right? Why? Because you have something to look forward to. Specifically, when you are depressed, when you are suffering from crippling anxiety, these types of emotional states, being mentally and emotionally unwell, the only way to get your brain out of that biochemical state is to have something to look forward to. So what I invite you to do is to pull out a pen and pad and write some goals. Remember to focus on effort goals. An effort goal is what we discussed earlier. I didn't try to lose 37 pounds or whatever it was exactly in a month. I focused on going to the gym every day for X amount of time. Then on a subset of your effort goal, you can set your bigger goal. Like, I wanted to get back to 185, and then I was going to start, once I got down, then I was going to start focusing on putting on some muscle as well. Same thing for your finances. What is your goal? Pick a goal. Like, do you want to have $10,000 saved? Do you want to have $100,000 saved? Do you want to go from making $3,000 a month to $5,000 a month? Pick something that is exciting. You need something exciting. Don't pick your goal based off of what is super realistic. Because if you pick your goal that way, like for example, let's say I make $2,000 a month. My goal is to make $2,500. There's zero excitement in that. I can understand why I would pick that goal because it is reasonable and I'm not setting myself up for failure. But what I invite you to consider, the point of the goal, the events, the material world, none of it is for obtainment. It is for progress and personal growth. So write out your goals. What's your goal with your health? What's your goal with your fitness? What's your goal with your finances? What's your goal with your career? What's your goal with your relationships? Mine was simple in relationship. It was connection. I wanted to get that connection back. Connection with my kids. I wanted to get that connection back with my wife as well. So once you identify what those goals are, then we come full circle. And this is where it's so important. Now, coming full circle is getting back to the basics. I quit studying, I quit reading, I quit learning, and I quit growing. Personal development, it's not just a way to make yourself feel better in the moment. It's a way for progress, and it's a way of growth, and it's a way of life. Just like being healthy is a lifestyle, self-development and self-improvement is a lifestyle. So whether that's reading the Bible, reading business books, reading books specifically on your skill set, maybe you're in sales, so it's reading sales books, pick a number, whether it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 60 minutes. Mine was a minimum of 60 because I used the gym as a way to get some of that time in. And you want to find books, YouTube videos, podcasts that you can listen to. Then the next part of that is what else isn't serving you. Maybe it's old friends. Maybe it's a substance. I started drinking regularly for the first time in my life, like a handful nights a week. And it became a way where I didn't feel as gross. I didn't feel as overweight. I didn't feel as like my dopamine was as low. And it became a way that made me feel more comfortable where I was. One of those things that I did is quit drinking a couple years ago, entirely pretty much. For you, it might be friends. Maybe there's people you're hanging around that are going nowhere and you're spending a lot of time with them and it's sapping you. It's sapping you of energy and it's keeping you stuck. So ask yourself, what are the heavy things in your life that you can minimize or let go of? It doesn't need to be forever. Right? It doesn't need to be forever. Whether it's a substance, whether it's a activity, whether it's 19 million hours of television or scrolling the phone, something that you can set parameters around so then it doesn't control you. You set boundaries around it. And when you build this full circle and you start focusing back on your why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And when you focus on your why and you get that progress, you get that dopamine again. And when your brain gets that dopamine again, then it becomes, in a sense, you become addicted to seeing how much you can change your life. And what I found, losing 37 pounds, drastically increasing my business again, having fun again in my business, changing my relationships, is that really if you commit to it and you find a real reason, in 12 months, you can change your life so radically that at the end of it, you go like, why the hell didn't I do this sooner? Like, why did I wait so long? Because the only reason your goals and your life that you want seems insurmountable, especially in a short period of time, is because we've been stuck. So I hope this video speaks to you. And if it does, I invite you to watch it again through. have a free financial success hypnosis to start reprogramming your subconscious mind. It's really important because the reason we get stuck is subconscious patterns, subconscious thoughts, subconscious emotions, subconscious habits and behaviors that loop every day. And we have to break that cycle of that program. The easiest way to do that is to start to reprogram your subconscious mind. It's free. About 1 million people from all over the world have used it. You can click right here to get it, or it's linked in the description. It's jakeshypnosis.com. It's also pinned as the top comment. Let me know if this video speaks to you. Like I said, I thought about making it for a while. I didn't make it. Even filming it, I felt a little uncomfortable making it. So I'd love to know what you think, and I will see you on the next video.